interested in kind of cards. You know, when I'm much older, I was going to Magic. Magic taught me a lot about like card game theories and plays and stuff like that. And then transitioned to Hearthstone. I think I got hooked when I go to my first like local event, and I just instantly won. You know, it was like pretty amazing to like instantly win an event you go to. I'm like, wow, this is sick. You know, I kind of just kept playing after. You know, I never stopped. So last year I wasn't playing competitive Hearthstone. I wasn't interested in HTC and all that stuff. By the end of 2016, I was trying a little bit, but I wasn't like super hard. I won the Australian prelims, and I went to LA last year. And then I also finished my masters, and currently I'm doing my CFA level 1. So Hearthstone is not a full-time thing, but maybe that may change in the future. We'll see. I have a strong drive for competitive, and I really want to win. And I feel like I'm still young, even though I'm like 26. I'm still pretty young. I feel like I kind of like want to see where this takes me. Maybe I don't really have a proudest moment. They're just moments for me. I don't think of them like, oh, I'm gonna look back and like, oh wow, this is what I've achieved. I'm looking more forward to like what I will achieve in the future. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know. Winning a BlizzCon would be nice.
Yeah, Jowen's, I guess, like a lot of pros, especially in the Australian New Zealand scene at the moment, in the sense that they've kind of got like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They're doing well, and they'd love to keep doing well and make this their full-time thing, but they're kind of like hedging their bets with a little bit of study and a little bit of other stuff on the side. So maybe, a win for Jowen today is the type of thing that spurs them on to keep going and keep pushing with this in 2018.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, winning a premier just international tournament for any of these players would just be, a huge change, especially for some of these players that, are on the bubble and they're deciding, do I want to pursue this more full time and see how far I can take it, or do I want to be a little bit more conservative, focus more on school, and kind of do this on the side? So, yeah, definitely a lot at stake for all these players here.
Now let's shift towards your teammate, Eloise. What can you tell her about her? What's her 2017 been like?
Eloise is a player that's just, she's competed in every region in the world, in all sorts of majors, international events. She's very consistent when it comes to events like DreamHacks, top 16s very regularly. Again, draws a lot of her lineups from the Chinese scene, but at the same time also consults a lot of European and American pros as well about some of the archetypes that we might be a little bit further along on. So she kind of gets to draw from the best of all worlds when it comes to Hearthstone and bringing lineups. But yeah, excellent player, and she's very well rehearsed. A lot of the players backstage are just talking about how much Eloise has been practicing compared to everyone else. I think she's played more Hearthstone since Kobolds than anyone else in this building.
Yeah, I mean, hands down. I mean, we'd be at dinner and she's there with the iPad still, like, smashing out games, and then people would go out and she's back in the room smashing games. So out of everyone here, she's the one that's actually practiced the most, and probably the one that I would pick to do the best just based off the familiarity with the decks that should be played today. And you're right, I think the fact that she's drawing from a different pool of pros should mean that her lineup is something different to everything we've seen again. So yeah, really excited about that. But let's hear a little bit more from Eloise and her journey.
大家好，我叫唐海韵，就是游戏的 ID 是艾律奇斯，我现在是代表中国来打比赛。有很多游戏我会试一下，但是我不擅长就不行了。但是像炉石的话，我一开始玩这个游戏的时候，我就有感觉我这个能打得比别人好，所以我就继续打下去。然后一开始我当时的成绩就已经很好了，就一直到现在。我小的时候画画很好，特别好，应该算是就是全年级最好的。当时，我妈妈还专门把我送到特别好的学校去学画画。但是后来我开始玩魔兽世界之后，就变得说我要玩这个游戏。然后我妈妈就跟我说，你要玩是可以的，我也不阻止你去改变你的目标，但是你一定要努力，就是你要尝试去做这个行业里面的所有事情，所有东西都尝试一下，然后做到最好，这样让自己不后悔才好。所以现在我觉得我可以做任何事情，我任何事情都愿意去做，而且我也愿意努力去做。我觉得我爸爸妈妈这样支持我做什么我都不怕，不只是做炉石传说。我觉得其实更多的是，就是比起打赢一个比赛，怎么就是获得大家的注意力啊什么之类的， 其实对我来说更重要的是，我希望，可能我比较希望所有的就是我喜欢的选手们觉得，我很厉害，我是可以作为对等的水平去挑战的选手。就我觉得对于选手来说，打更多的比赛，赢更多的比赛，才是真正能够证明一个选手好还是不好。所以对我来说，我当然很高兴明年有机会能够打更多的比赛，我很想去打更多的比赛，也很期待就是明年。
So she grew up wanting to be an artist, and I guess memes are a form of artistry, right? So dream complete?
That's right, man. It's modern art.
But Eloise, as we were mentioning before the little video there, she's one of the players that's kind of prepped the most since being here and grinded the most games out. And you can see she's very calm, very focused. I think she's one that really should put in a good effort today. And Jowen, on the other hand, I think he's been enjoying the most of having the company here. And not to say he hasn't been practicing or hasn't brought good decks, but clearly, like, the more fun getting a part of it has been, like, his focus and just, like, embracing kind of, like, the scene being here, while Eloise has, like, locked herself away and grinded and grinded. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as today's games go on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both these players brought extremely different lineups, by the way. So Jowen's decks that he brought are very reminiscent of kind of the North American players' decks right now. There's a lot of Corrosive Creeper, a lot of very aggressive decks, a lot of just polished, proactive strategies. And Eloise is playing some, what is the guy called? The 7-mana Death Rattle that summons an 8-drop. We're playing some meme cards today. That's what Eloise is playing. I mean, these are some spicy lists. We got Skelemancer in here. We've got Big Priest, which we've seen a bit of.
Oh, the Silver Vanguard, is that the one in the Paladin list?
Oh, yes.
Yes, yeah.
The People's Champion. We got, Control Warlock. Just a lot of slower lists versus a lot of aggressive lists. So Eloise is definitely going to be the one trying to stem the bleeding in the early game and kind of take the game over, as it progresses. And we'll just kind of see which strategy is stronger here.
And I think that's the interesting part about the Corridor Creeper and how that tech choice that Jowen's brought will play in today's game, because that card is weaker against these control lineups, right? There's not enough minions on the board to trade into and get value. I mean, sure, it can reload the board earlier on, but ideally you're playing this card earlier, more proactively than on turn 5-6 for free or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, it depends entirely on the answers that the control deck has in hand. Like, on one hand, it is a 0-mana card that can empty your hand faster and can, get swept up in like an equality board clear or something from Eloise or like a brawl. But at the same time, if they don't have the answer, it just kills them. So, all minions are vulnerable to removal. And, I expect that it's just going to depend on how early he draws that card, right? Like, most of Jowen's decks here are playing Corrosive Creeper, which for those guys that don't know, that's the 7-mana 5/5 neutral minion that gets cost reduced anytime a minion dies. We've been seeing a lot of that in the more aggressive list so far in this tournament. But, if Jowen wants to keep that, or if he just happens to draw it early in almost any matchup, whether it's control or aggro that he's playing against, it's going to be strong, I think.
And what will be really interesting to see as well for me is that Corridor Creeper card is kind of the one, I guess, in the first 24 hours so that people are like, oh, this could be the card that breaks the set. It's way too strong. And we're finally going to see a lineup that basically heavily relies on that card to get a win. Yeah. So it should be a really good test for whether that card is as strong as people think, or whether, in a slower meta, then maybe it doesn't work as well. Because I'm sure in the tempo mirrors it's a great card, but this type of matchup will actually probably determine whether or not it has long-term value.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in most card games, cards that cost 0 are just broken in one way or another. Even Wisp, it's seen competitive play,
That's true, but it has to find a way to reach 0, and that's where the control lineups come into play. So, Forge of Souls, what type of warrior deck are we looking at right here?
So, Eloise is playing, I believe, a Recruit warrior list, and Forge of Souls is a card I really like seeing as a one-of, because honestly, I think it's criminally underplayed. Bloodrazor is so strong, and just having an extra copy of it, especially nowadays when you don't have as many things to do on turn 2. It's just so important to get the Bloodrazor. So, I think Forge of Souls doesn't really mess with your curve too much. It just gets you pretty good value in a good amount of games. So, the interesting thing about this Recruit type of warrior deck is that about half of the deck list, or about a third of the deck list, are these expensive finishers. So when it comes to the mulligan phase, you know, when you just have some stuff that's not 8 drops, you just keep all of it as Eloise. I don't know. It's tough to decide. But she's going to toss back the Execute, see what she gets instead. And that's a Reckless Fury, the brand new board clear.
Is that the one that uses all your armor to deal damage to all minions? Ooh, that's a fun card.
Yeah.
And so from Jowen's side, we can see he is running, I guess, what production called an Arena Rogue, but I think it's kind of like the standard Kelsith Rogue that we would have seen in the last meta with a few add-ons. So we've got the Corridor Creepers, as we mentioned, as well as then the Sonya Shadow Dancer, the new 3-mana legendary rogue card.
Right.
Do you know what that one does?
Yeah, she's pretty strong. It's anytime one of your minions dies, it comes back to your hand as a 1-mana 1/1, I believe.
And so that's really powerful in a deck like this where you're already running 1-mana minions that you'd like to play anyway, and then you've got stuff like the Chain Gangs, the Corridor Creepers. You can get a lot of value off that just trading into board and all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, the cool thing is there's some synergy with just like charge minions, like a Patches or a Sousey. All of your mana can trade in, and then you play it again, trade in. Yeah, there's also value to be gotten with like Edwin Van Cleave, so a lot of potentially, you know, Vile Spine Slayer. Yeah. A lot of ways to use the card, but yeah, this is pretty key Molten Blade, in my opinion, picked up by Jowen. You know, a lot of times, as the rogue player, you don't get something that's too useful. You get like a defensive tool out of the warrior deck, but Molten Blade is actually pretty good, especially when you get it turn 1, because at some point it's going to be a very high impact weapon.
Yeah, I mean, he could even choose to use it now, but probably won't. I think... I mean, I think he'd be likely to go for a really greedy route and try and get something like an Arcanite Reaper later on, or a Gore Howl for that 7, the 7 damage fireball, basically.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things you can get, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure you can get like a Doom Hammer, right? That's the dream.
Oh yeah, that'd be so cool.
Is it only warrior weapons it turns in? No, it's
any weapon.
Yeah, so it could be Doom Hammer.
So what's Eloise mousing over there? Is that the...
Oh,
that's the Flurry card, I think?
I think so.
Yeah, it must read like deal damage to each minion for each armor you have.
Yeah. That's probably it.
So...
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how this goes. It's a bit of an awkward board, but not really. I mean, she just gets to attack here.
Yeah,
right?
with the weapon, you just clear off 3 already. And something like a slam would have been great here if she runs it, but...
yeah, that was the dream. Yeah, let's look here. So it looks like Eloise does play a single copy of Slam.
So then, it's unlikely she's playing that spell. So if she attacks him with the weapon... I mean, do you ever doing something like shield block? That seems reasonable. Do you need to hang on to that armor for a later point? I guess if you want to combo it with the Flurry, then you need to hold on to it.
Yeah, we'll see what she opts for here. I mean, attacking definitely seems like the play. I think just playing another Blood Razor looks reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, you know, her life total is dropping pretty low, but with a shield block in hand, you don't feel too scared about that.
And this is probably one of the turns where Jowen would have liked to have seen a weapon that he could equip and attack with, but unfortunately not the case. Oh, this is actually fairly strong, right?
It's not a bad play. It's, if you ever play it, now is probably the turn. The thing is, Jowen realizes that Eloise is low, so he wants to be sending damage to the face. So I actually like this shadow step a lot more.
Yeah, this is really cool.
It's keeping the pressure up. That Blood Razor that Eloise just played is still at 2 charges, so she's not going to be able to, attack it and proc it right away. So I think this is definitely a solid play from Jowen here.
Yeah, and then holding onto the deck and lets you activate those Slayers if a defending minion comes down. So very nice. So Eloise here that now posed with a really tricky turn 5 because the shield block Flurry combo isn't online yet, so you couldn't clear that way. This feels really weak for a brawl.
Yeah, there's like a whirlwind shield block play she can make here. There is an unidentified shield coming up. I believe that is the weapon one. The 6-mana 5/2 weapon plus 5 armor. So there's some options. Eloise is going to take her time, though. I mean, she's really a player that likes to be really patient, make sure she thinks through every single line, and makes the correct one. She rarely just snap plays something the second her turn comes up.
Yeah, which is actually quite different to a lot of the other plays we've seen today that do snap play. It's quite interesting how that's shifted from maybe like a year to 18 months ago, where almost every player always took the full turn, always. And that's kind of stopped a little bit. There are still some players that love doing that, but others now, if they're confident that's the right play, they'll just do it to give their opponent less time to think.
Right. Yeah, we just see more and more players nowadays grinding more hours of Hearthstone, feeling more comfortable going through the motions enough times that they feel pretty confident in the play when they make it. But yeah, Eloise is going to opt not to use Shield Slam, not to use Shield Block. It's kind of interesting because that that telegraphs to me that she's not really planning on playing a 6-mana card next turn. If she was planning on doing that, she probably would have armored already. Vile Spine on an empty board cannot feel good if you're Jowen here, but that is the best pressure he has, and with another Vile Spine in hand, it's probably the best option. I think he's being a little wary of playing Cornered Sentry because of a potential brawl, maybe. But well, also the fact that just the 1/1s could trade into the Cornered Sentry together with the weapon. But
yeah, yep. I think once that weapon goes away, we might see him be more willing to drop the Sentry.
Yeah, honestly, he just doesn't want to spend dagger charges killing 1/1s right now. He just wants to be going face because every point matters when Eloise is this low.
And this feels like another pretty awkward turn for Eloise, right?
Yeah. Every single turn that Molten Blade is in Jowen's hand, it has a chance of just winning him the game. Like, the second he finds a Gorehowl or a Doomhammer, that completely changes the nature of the game.
I have a feeling as long as we see a weapon with 4 or more attack, he'll equip it. I think that's like the number he's looking for.
Kind of surprised to see a Reckless Flurry there. Eloise doesn't want...
Oh, this is 1 off lethal.
Yeah, that's so close. Wow. Well, it's a bullet dodge for Eloise right now, but she's got to... Well, Jowen has to decide, do I want to play as True Silver now, or do I think I can get something better? And I think just because of how weak his turn would be otherwise, I think this is the play. I think you even play both of the Southseas. Actually, you play one, because you want your Bone Mare to still be live.
So the Sentry comes down now?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Sentry Flame Elemental? I guess I can see that.
I mean, Eloise has to put the weapon into it at this point, which is 2 damage anyway, so it's better than holding it in hand, even though it doesn't survive.
Right. Jowen is going to get his 2 damage in now. I agree with this line of play. And at this point, he's just deciding, should I Cornered Sentry? Should I not?
So what's the... I mean, there's probably no point in the game now where you get a better Sentry than this, because if you're worried about activating a Brawl, then the board that you're putting on, you don't care about being brawled. So.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely the best turn to do it. So.
And is it going to force a brawl?
Well, if Eloise brawls, she's dead. So I think she's aware of potential of Jowen having a bit more damage in his hand. And she can almost infer that he has another charge minion, just because if he didn't, he probably would have held this Southsea in case he got like a Bone Mare or a Cold Blood or something.
So if that's the case, then you have to play the Recruit card and get a Taunt?
Well, you can you just play the Shield and Armor, right?
The 6 mana.
The Shield, the Spike Shield.
Yeah. So you get 5 armor off that, and then you Shield Slam?
No. You attack with your Raptors, and you attack with your weapon. That clears the board.
Yeah.
And then you go Armor or Shield card.
The Shield card's 6 mana, Armor's 2.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, she has 7 mana. My bad. Well, just the Shield card.
So I think if you Shield card, and then you can Slam, and you don't have to put the weapon into the minion, so you get slightly more health this line.
Yeah,
Missed out on... Oh, yeah.
I would have attacked there as well. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's better. There are actually a lot of different ways to run that turn. This is fine. I was going to decide to play the Southsea deckhand. It is definitely way more tempting to play it on a board where your opponent doesn't have a Blood Razor primed.
But you're right that if a Bone Mare was to come out, you want to have the deckhand available to charge in and put 6 to face. So, I mean, if you don't play it now, it's such an awkward turn. And we are starting to get to the turns where Eloise will actually play minions as part of her turn. So throwing out the Valsplan Slayer now doesn't feel great, but how are you putting enough damage on the board if you don't?
Right, yeah, I agree with this play from Jowen. It's the best he can do. Like Kelsa was actually one of his weaker draws right there, so if you're Eloise, you got to be happy to see that off the top. That turn could have gone a lot worse for her. And at this point, I think it's going to come down to, do we get a defensive card off this Gather Your Party or not?
It doesn't. I mean, from Eloise's perspective, it matters, but from Jowen's, does it? Because the deckhand Valsblind kills any taunt, and then you've got 6 damage with the deckhand.
Ooh.
So that's going to be game.
Yeah, it matters a lot because... Yeah. Yeah, I guess...
It was lethal either way, I think.
Yeah, there's no way to...
Yeah.
Well, that'll do it. Oh, what if it was Gromosh? That would have done... Or no, there's no Gromosh in the deck. Or no, there is. Yeah, that'll do it. And Jowen just barely getting there before Eloise stabilizes. He's got to be happy about that win.
Game of inches. Really, that was one turn away from Eloise being able to stabilize that.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not a fan of this Reckless Flurry card after seeing it in play a few times. I feel like when you're really far behind on board, you're not going to have the armor for it to be effective. So it's like a 2-card combo clear. That just seems a lot worse than like Sleep with the Fishes or Brawl. And then like if you're head on board, you kind of like don't want to use your armor because the way your opponent kills you is by burning you. So it's like it's an interesting card though.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, if you only hit like maybe it's great for clearing like a board of 3 or 4 health minions, and if you have to invest any more armor into it than that, then it's not worth it. But it just seems like if that's the best time to use it, it's too specific for the card to be consistently good and included in lists.
It is super interesting to have like a warrior control deck with 5 board clears though. You know, more than just the brawls, more than the Sleep with the Fishes. You're always going to have one, it feels like. So there's definitely a lot of strength in that regard. But yeah, Eloise, you know, looks a bit sad after losing that game, but she's just thinking about, what do I queue next? So if you're Jowen, what do you have left? You have Warlock and Priest.
Yeah, the Paladin being banned is a bit interesting. So the Priest for Jowen is the Dragon Priest, which has the new Duskbreaker card, which seems really, really strong. And then I think apart from that, the list is maybe not too different from old lists we would have seen. So it has the double Divine Spirit, double Inner Fire as like a finisher type thing, combined with some big health minions and dragons, which is pretty good. And then for the Warlock deck that he's running, that is one of the Zoolocks, which we touched on earlier. And that's running the double Corridor Creeper, the new card, as well as, you know, all the other stuff we've kind of been familiar with. So it's very much like the Demon package with the Crystal Weavers, and then the Blood Reaver Gul'dan as another finisher combined with, you know, Bone Mares and Doomguard. So all the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually a really big fan of Jowen's Warlock deck. It looks like a very polished, refined list. I don't think he's going to have trouble getting a win with that at all. I mean, that'll be the stronger deck he has available. The Priest deck, on the other hand, I'm a little bit worried about because we haven't really seen a Priest list in the modern meta work well, despite the class getting some really strong cards like Duskbreaker. And Jowen's list, I think, only plays 6 dragons.
Which is on the lower end, right?
Yeah, you almost never see them with less than like 8, 7 at the absolute minimum.
Yeah, so double Netherspite Historian, which is standard. Then you've got the double Duskbreaker, double Operative, and then double Drake. So that's a the 6 is quite low.
Right, yeah. So you almost have to keep Dragon and Operative in almost any hand you get. Also some interesting choices in there, like a Silence. I'm not sure why that's in there. But this is a deck that I could see struggling to get a win against some of the slower strategies. I think in this matchup specifically, Eloise is pretty favored. When we see Dragon Priest play against control decks, it's actually a very interesting dynamic because the way that the Priest deck is trying to win is by getting a big Divine Spirit Inner Fire turn, and all you're trying to do is keep card parity with the other control opponent the entire game without falling too far behind on board. But it's not really a game where you're getting chip damage in like a rogue. It's not really a game where either of you really runs out of resources that easily. So it's all about the Priest trying to set up this one turn where you nuke him for like 20 damage, and then the control player trying to prevent that at all costs.
The other way that the Priest does have to win in those matchups is just with the insane value that you can get off Historians and Operatives. So, I mean, if you kind of like get a decent tempo and then find some great like value cards that keeps the pressure on through that, that's another way you can win, but maybe not as common against control decks as you would with the Inner Fire combo.
Yeah, I mean, one of the... Yeah, for sure, yeah. There are another Spite Historians in his list. This is it's a matchup that just plays out so differently every time. Because honestly, the Priest opening hands are... It's not the Dragon Priest of old. Like, back in the day when we had Twilight Guardian and all of those cards, and Worm Rest Agent in Standard, What we saw is a priest deck that just kind of curved out with better minions at every slot of the curve.
That's right. You hit like 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all so well statted that once
Right.
they stuck on the board combined with the hero power, you're just so far ahead. But that's changed in the last couple of metas, right?
Yeah, I mean, the modern Dragon Priest deck plays a lot of reactive cards, a lot of cards that are only good on situational boards, like Twilight Acolyte, as we see in hand, or Duskbreaker, again, only good when you're behind. So it's not really like a curve-out proactive deck anymore. It's more of a strong cards deck with different game plans depending on the matchup.
And I think for me, the thing that's hampered it the most is the fact that it doesn't have good 1 and 2 drops anymore.
Right.
So just being able to have that 1 drop that helped activate your dragons was really powerful, like a really easy add-in. And so losing some of that stuff has made it weaker in the early game, which is, I guess, one of the ways against a control deck that it used to be able to win, which is that tempo curve out, as you mentioned.
Yeah, the only cards that Jowen could play in the first 2 turns in his entire deck are Northshire Cleric and Netherspite Historian. Those are the only minions in the early game. So despite that, there's 2 Cabal Talon Priests. But he's looking not to play them on curve, but more so to play them in the mid-game to clear a minion or to set up a big inner fire turn.
So Eloise kind of whiffing on the barns there, pulling out the Eldor Peacekeeper, which it doesn't feel too great, especially in a deck where you're looking to find Death Rattles for N'Zoth.
Yeah, she had a lot of different high rolls there, but she's not going to feel too bad, whiffing on that. I mean, sure, you don't get the free win, which hurts, but it's like not the end of the world either.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's still 4 mana for 4/5 worth of stats, so
yeah.
Could be worse. So interesting trade in there on the 1/1. What's that about?
Well, Jowen's just trying to keep control of the board. Like, he's not too worried about Eloise's life total. He recognizes that, she plays a lot of life gain. There's, Ragnaros in the deck. It's more about trying to just set up a beefy board and nuking the opponent with Divine Spirit at some point. So, forcing an early equality every Jowen, you got to feel pretty good about that. And just having a turn 5 operative in a matchup like this is so strong. But he's going to opt for the Duskbreaker instead. He can do this because he drew the Netherspite just now, so he's still going to have a dragon for the operative.
Correct, yeah, and very good recognition there by Jowen. Would be playing straight into Spike Ridge Steed if he took the mana-efficient, greedy operative turn.
Yep, both players are very cognizant of what their opponent can do at every casting cost, and they're doing everything they can to make those plays less effective. But for Eloise here, we have a Cairn into a Bone Mare, which is just the dream. It is so tough for Jowen's deck to recover from a play like that.
And the silence was a one-of, right? That would have been great to have for that when it goes down, but was forced to use earlier to prevent the draw.
Yeah, if you're Eloise, you got to feel good about this. This is just as good as it gets. The only thing she's deciding between is, do I Spike Ridge Steed, do I Bone Mare? Yeah, like...
What's really interesting there, actually, is that the operative came out and not the historian.
Yeah, I feel like Jowen may have just forgotten he didn't have a dragon. Because that seems that seems questionable, right? I mean...
Yeah.
I think he just assumed he had a dragon in hand, and justice was served. Well, I know, that happens.
It's just really far behind now. I mean, even if he's going for some type of tempo play, it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Yep, this is a... this is a game, at this point, I don't think he can win. This is like... That Cairn specifically, just, not having a silence in your deck. He has, like, Shadow Visions for Shadow Word Death. Go face with that. It's like... He didn't even get it. Oof, this is brutal.
I mean, you can create a super big minion now, but the likelihood that it survives is not great. So I think he's going to opt for the safer line there with the Dragonfire Potion and just try and hope he can clear and then stabilize.
Yeah, I think it's the best thing he can do. He doesn't have a dragon for his Twilight Acolyte here anymore. And we're really starting to see kind of the weakness of only playing 6 dragons.
Sure. I mean, that combined with Eloise just having a great kind of curve there throughout the mid-game for a deck that's slower and probably shouldn't curve out that well.
I mean, there's no way he just really wanted a pit fighter on turn 6, right? Like, there's no way that wasn't an accident, right?
Yeah.
That's brutal. Those plays happen. So we'll see if... yeah, there it is.
So for Eloise here... what's she thinking about as she goes to close out the game? Is there anything that she needs to be cognizant of playing around?
Well, it depends on have we confirmed if they see each other's list before playing?
They haven't, yeah. I asked during the break, and they actually are blind at the moment, so neither of them know what the other has.
Okay.
But, you know, once obviously you see some of these cards, you get a bit of a clue.
Right. So, I mean, with the information that Jowen doesn't have Anduin in his deck, the Ragnaros would have been the better play, but Eloise realizes, like, I'm really far ahead. Let's play around the only cards I could lose to, and, you know, Anduin is chief among them, but Dragonfire Potion, pretty straightforward response from Jowen here. And Eloise is just going to keep bringing the beats one turn at a time. Ooh, that Lich King is a
Nice
great
draw.
pickup for her. Now, yeah, Ragnaros has a 50-50 shot of healing the minion, but I still think the Lich King's just better.
Yeah, I mean, what's the only thing that John can kill with is another Dragonfire Potion.
Army of the Dead.
Not a great one, exactly.
Yeah, it's not the card you want to see if you're the Lich King player.
So, Jowen now has the Drake, so he can activate the Historian. I think the problem is he's staring down lethal at the moment. So either has to put a taunt in the way or...
Yeah, he can shrink that first. He's going to go for the stats plus Shadowward Pain play.
Oh, this is really nice.
Makes sense.
I haven't seen that card get played much in a game. That's really cool what it can do.
Yeah, it's quite strong against big minions.
Is that something that you could ever see bringing like Cabal Shadow Priest back into action?
Maybe. It's definitely a tough combo, right? You need to do it on turn 9 or later.
Yeah.
You kind of need to hit a big minion for it to be worth it, and then you need to live until that point and have a dragon. It's like, it's a lot of stuff that has to go right, but it is such a blowout when it works.
Yeah, it just seems like against... there's been a lot of big decks being played so far, and so that's something that probably the game probably goes long enough that you could get that off consistently, but, I mean, obviously not in a dragon list.
Yeah. Speaking of blowout, Army of the Dead straight into a Tyrion is not too shabby.
Worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and I think after confirming that he does have a dragon in hand, Jowen's going to drop another Spite Historian, and we'll see if that's enough to catch him up on the board. I doubt it will be.
I don't think the Duskbreaker... Oh, the Duskbreaker actually clears a
Pretty
lot,
good.
right? There's a lot of 3 health minions left, and you get a heal in, and you can Shadow Visions to set up for next turn.
Yeah, it is pretty strong. But yeah, I think that Cairn and the Ashbringer, more importantly, are going to be
Yeah, it's
pretty
still...
problematic. But he's thinking about it. Is there any way out?
So, Visions into another Dragonfire Potion.
I must consider.
Keeps you alive on 1.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
That's
was
it, right?
Primordial,
That's
what
it.
about just playing Primordial Drake? Keeps you alive, right?
You have best.
Yeah, I was gonna opt not to reveal his dragon. And yeah, Eloise takes that one, getting a win with the Paladin. This was actually one of the spicier decks that she brought. It had some really unique tech choices. You know, there's a big N'Zoth package, which we don't often see. Like, it's been a while since we've seen a lot of control Paladins.
Couple of metas at least.
It's really cool to see that, you know, after Kobolds, to see like just like a powerful control Paladin deck. We haven't seen that in like a couple of years at this point.
Well, to see the old god still getting played in decks is kind of
Right,
cool
yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah,
So not long until it's out of standard.
Yeah, I never thought we'd see the Year of You Charge, but he's basically the best old god now. Even though he was like the weakest one on release, which is kind of cool. Yeah, some Silver Vanguards, Skelemancers, cool cards in that list. But
Yeah,
always,
it's unfortunate because I feel like whenever people bring N'Zoth Paladin or like those slower Paladin lists, when they get their wins, it's just like in some really silly way. And by silly, I mean they didn't have to do anything that special. Like Eloise kind of just curved out and just crushed. And there were maybe like a turn or two there it was difficult choices, like for example throwing out the Equality early to clear off the board. But outside of that, it felt like the turns were kind of linear for her. And when the deck's got so many interesting tech choices, you kind of want to see it like in a more complex situation than what we did.
yeah, I mean, sometimes you just go Cairn Bone Mare when they die. That's strong.
Worked well in Tempo Rogue for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Still does.
So Eloise has still got that warrior deck that didn't exactly shine in game 1, as well as a slower control warlock. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the warrior deck didn't do terribly. It was just a game of inches. If she had one more life point, she probably wins that game.
Yeah.
So it's a deck that can keep up against aggro, and honestly, I feel like that warrior deck would do pretty well against the Dragon Priest from Jowen. Like I said before they started playing the set, I really worry about Jowen's Dragon Priest deck. I think that it's a very low dragon count. There's cards like Primordial Drake that don't really fit with the rest of the game plan, and you almost have to kind of get lucky with like a Divine Spirit cheese in order to win the game with that. So that's a deck I could see Jowen struggling to get a win with, but at the same time, if Eloise did bring an aggro deck, Jowen's Dragon list would destroy that. But yeah, we're going to see him bring out Zoo, which I really like Jowen's list of Zoo. It looks very, very powerful. He's got exactly what he wants. The best 2-drop. He's got the Creeper, opening hand. There's no 1-drop, which is definitely going to hurt a bit, but the curve after that gets pretty good.
Yeah, especially since I think the 1-drop, the Kobold is in his list, and that's the ideal 1-drop in this matchup every time. A little bit late.
Yeah. Well, I think in this case where you have Crystal Weaver, I think you just want Flame Imp. But, yeah, still a good curve.
So what was interesting for the mulligan there was the Corridor Creeper was kept in a matchup where the minions aren't going to be dying that early. Do you see that as a correct play?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you just keep the Creeper if you have anything reasonable in your hand. I think you just keep it, period, all the time. It's interesting that Jowen opted to play Kobold here instead of Tar Creeper and then got rewarded by drawing a 2-drop when he only had 3 in his deck. I think that's actually ridiculous. That's actually really bad against the Bloodrazor that came down. He was overwhelmingly likely to not draw a 2-drop there. I think the Tar Creeper would have just been like a more mana-efficient play. But, despite that, he's still in a pretty good spot here. Direwolf's going to die, but he's getting a lot of damage output.
Yeah, this is going to be really tricky for Eloise to survive. This just looks like,
She gets a pretty clean clear here, right? You just go like execute, pass. I think she's deciding between execute and sleep. But
I think holding on to the sleep is probably better if you've got the second Bloodrazor.
She can also... This is actually... I think the better play is play Bloodrazor and attack with Bloodrazor.
What, just save yourself 1 life?
No. Because you double Whirlwind, right? And you kill the thing.
Oh,
of
course.
But you keep a primed Bloodrazor.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I don't like this play nearly as much, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then we see. It doesn't take a lot for Creeper to become nuts, right? Like 3 minions have to die, and then it's like a pretty above average card. So.
Yeah. Now once you've got the 3-mana 5/5, it's above average, like by a lot.
Yeah. King Mukla. It's even a beast.
Synergy.
Yeah.
So, what do you like here? Because this is kind of an awkward turn, I think.
Well, this is one of the reasons I'm skeptical about Despicable Dreadlord. In this matchup, I'd probably play Creeper Flame Imp right now. Because you just want to output damage, and you want to slam Doomguard next turn. Your Tar Creeper and your Despicable Dreadlord are just not really great anti-control cards. So you just want to maximize power every turn. Make Eloise have it at every step.
Right, yeah, so Dreadlord and Tar Creeper are both kind of better in like one of those tempo aggro tug of wars where you need to get a little bit of value and clear off some minions with some pings. But in this matchup, that never eventuates, so here most power on the board.
Here we see Eloise's decision last turn really getting punished, like a lot. This is a board she can't deal with because she didn't have a primed Bloodrazor in play.
You're right, and this turn would be just attack him with a Bloodrazor, sleep with the fishes, armor up, good to go.
Yep, and that would have gone right into the 6-mana plays, and everything would have been fine. But that's just it's a tricky card to play with sometimes. So she's still gonna attack here.
So holding on to the Shield Slam, because the Shield Slam could have been a kill on.
Soulfire could do it. Doesn't get it. Okay, so that Bone Mare draw kind of changes things, because now rather than just slamming this Doomguard, there's some merit to playing Despicable Dreadlord and just getting some damage in.
It's pretty rough though, because effectively if Dreadlord dies on the next turn, like if the board gets cleared, then your Bone Mare stranded and worth nothing forever.
Right. But you can Doomguard that turn anyway. It's close. When Eloise is so low, just getting 5 damage right now is so tempting. Plus, there's a 33% chance you just keep the Bone Mare, which is like, not the lowest odds. So Yeah, it's possible that Doomguard's just a better play. This is not an easy turn for Jowen here, and yeah, I don't blame him for taking his time here. It's very not obvious what the best play is.
Ooh. Definitely the two worst, I think. Like, Tar Creep is the one that you'd be happy to get rid of out of the three.
Yeah, it's not what he wanted to see there. Shield block picked up for Eloise, which is actually one of her better draws, I want to say. Between the weapon and the shield block, she can now full clear before the Doomguard turn if she wants to expend Shield Slam and Sleep.
Which, I mean, I think you just have to go for full clear, right?
Right. So
and then yeah, the shields in hand are the tower shields, which is the
10 life.
Yeah, it's the 6 armor and then another 10 armor, so you get like 16 armor off those, isn't it?
I think it's 5 plus 10. Is it 15 armor?
It's 15 or 16. It's like, yeah, it's 15. You're right. It's 15 armor.
Maybe just do that.
This turn, just like expend as many resources as you can. I mean,
she's thinking about what happens if I play the shield and then I let him bone marry me, right? Take 13. 2 armor left, and then I play another one shield slam attack. I think clearing now is probably better. But
yeah, I like your clear the board play. I just think it reduces the outs by so much.
Right. I mean, when we see the hands, this is obviously the better play, but it's hard when you're in Eloise's spot and you just don't know what Jowen's holding to really like weigh the risk reward. A Doomguard draw, possibly the best possible draw in Jowen's deck.
Most definitely. So pressure straight back on, and the tower shields will obviously put a lot of life behind Eloise.
Yeah.
But doesn't develop anything.
Right, that is not what you wanted to see. That Doomguard coming off the top is huge.
It's the only thing keeping Jowen in the game at the moment.
Yep. But man, 15 life is not a small number, and yeah, when you value that in terms of like mage freeze spells, that is, I don't know, it's like a Frost Nova and a half. It's ridiculously valuable. So I think, yeah, at this point, regardless of which line Eloise takes, she's going to be in a pretty good spot. Whether she wants to play Lich King now, whether she wants to try to recruit with her weapon, it's all very strong plays.
So if she recruits with the weapon, I think there are lethal chances.
Yeah, if she recruited, she could hit Ysera or Deathwing.
Yes, and then like a Bone Marrow or a...
so there's actually no Bone Marrow in her deck.
No, for Jowen. Jowen would have been able to lethal next turn.
Right.
If he hit 4 damage. So he had 3 outs for that.
Yeah, so
where that line with the Lich King stopped it. The downside of the Lich King line was, once again, if Bone Mare came out, then the Doomguard gets a really good trade onto it.
I like Jowen holding on to the Malchezaar's Imp here. That's definitely... don't want to make yourself more vulnerable to Brawl than you have to be. And yeah, the dragon comes down. Ooh, Malchezaar's Imp. So you have to decide, do you tap first or second? I guess first. Well, no, because you don't want to draw Blood Reaver. Okay. So, well, this worked out better. You get a Cycler or Tar Creeper for a good card.
For a good card.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking for Blood Reaver, right? Like that's
yeah. So if you're looking for Blood Reaver, then that ordering's better, right? Because you get more draws on average to get closer to it.
Yeah, if you hit the Blood Reaver, though, you kind of get screwed. So, yeah, it's probably better to do it this way on average.
I mean, if you hit the Blood Reaver, then you're happy because you hit the Blood Reaver. You just sit on it.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think the problem for Jowen here is that Eloise has got absolute fire in her hand, so she can recruit, and then she's got the buff from Lich King, right? So that taunt will keep getting healthier.
I don't like if I don't know if I like Jowen not attacking there. I mean, you get a bump with the 5/5. I mean, you've already seen 2 Blood Reavers. There's not like a lot of whirlwind effects you should be afraid of when you're this far behind.
Yeah, so what? I mean, the only thing would be if you're trying to like bait a Brawl, so then you can Gul'dan the turn after.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I think you like at least hit with the 5/5, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, Eloise is firmly in control of this game. She's trying to figure out what are the possible ways I can lose the game from this point, and how do I play around them.
It's got to be Gul'dan, because you get double Doomguard for 10 damage.
Right.
And then Bone Mare follows it up the turn after, something crazy like that.
Well, the sleepiest of dragons continue getting played. And we'll see if this life tap can dig Jowen out of it. I mean, it's a 1-mana 2/4, but that is probably going to mean Eloise just has lethal, I believe. I don't know, she's missing a little bit.
Yeah, she's like 1 mana short.
Yeah, she's considering at this point what happens if I brawl. I mean, is there any way to get lethal? There really isn't. I think it's another tower shield, so we're probably just going to see like a...
Brawl is lethal if the dragon survives?
Oh, that's true. It's a little ambitious, but yeah.
I love how with someone of your RNG, you would never see that as a possible lethal out.
This Crystal Weaver is ready to brawl. He's coming out on top.
You could tell. I feel like the Creeper would win the brawl. Like the 5/1, it's just like and awkwardly enough statted that it should win.
Yeah. They can just burrow underground while everyone else fights, right? That's how it works.
That's that rich lore that they're building, and I really like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, definitely not an easy turn for Eloise by any means. She's got a lot of options. Just playing Grommash does seem pretty safe. You get to clear the biggest threat on your opponent's side of the table. They couldn't clear the dragon last turn. They're probably not going to clear it this turn. Still threatening lethal. Still putting yourself in a great spot if even if they draw.
Gotta be Gul'dan.
Yep, and that is not him. Jowen's going to do the math real quick on whether he even can life tap. And I believe the answer is yes.
So on board, yes, he can. Because as of right now, he's leaving a taunt on the board after clearing off the dragon, which the Grommash will have to trade into. So he'll still be on 4.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Jowen, you have to assume Eloise is holding like 10 Magma Ragers in hand. Like that's how you win the game, right? So you don't have the luxury of playing around anything at this point. So if you're not dead on board, you go for it. And he is going to, and I think with that draw, that'll be enough for Eloise to just win the game.
It's to all minions, right?
Oh, all minions?
Yeah, so it would kill the Grommash
God,
as well.
that card is bad.
So I actually think Jowen's still alive for one more turn.
Can you, like, hurt yourself with the weapon? No, you don't have the mana. Okay.
But you still got a 4 off anyway.
Yeah.
So this is now kind of an awkward turn.
I think you just gained 15 life and Death and Decay. I don't know, man. This is...
Why don't we AoE the board? Well, why doesn't Eloise AoE the board with a flurry and then put on 15 armor? That feels pretty good. You go up to 18, you clear the whole board, and then if Gul'dan comes down, you've got the Brawl as follow-up.
But then your opponent gains like 8 life. You're not threatening lethal anymore. She's trying to make sure she can still keep the pressure up with whatever play she makes.
Well, is there a better line?
Honestly, Woe Reaver might be right. Like, yeah, she's doing the math right now. She's thinking, like, worst case scenario, there's 1 more Soulfire and 1 more Bone Mare.
1 Bone Mare has already been discarded, so there's 1 Soulfire left. But the Gul'dan is 10. Just off the Doom Guards.
So she is going to make this play, which I think is very reactive. Gul'dan wasn't drawn, so I think Eloise is still going to take it. But this could have gone... It could have been scary, you know? If Gul'dan gets drawn there, it's a very different game. So.
Oh, man, where is the Gul'dan?
You play this card, absolutely, because you have to draw Gul'dan to win.
Yep.
And
this sets up for lethal if no armor's gained.
That's right. Well, Death and Decay is going to come out, and Eloise is going to take it after just being a little bit off lethal for so many turns in a row.
What a weird way for the game to end. Like, they just kind of like ran out of steam and hitting each other with gloves.
She is ecstatic about this win. I've never seen her so excited.
And can you comment on the fashion that's going on with Eloise at the moment?
Yeah, it's an awfully form-fitting jersey. I wonder where those might be available.
I was talking about the yellow pants.
Ah, okay.
Are those also available?
I mean,
special edition, limited release.
The yellow pants. We should put those in the store. Yeah.
I mean, you'd be able to like charity auction them for a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Oh.
Eloise not entertained at all. So
no. She's here to win.
Yeah, so let's look at then her last deck that she has to get a win with, because we've seen this control theme throughout the day for her, and I think her last deck is the Control Warlock. Is that right?
So Eloise does have a Control Warlock, and it's a little bit different from the other lists we've seen. She is playing Spellbreaker, like Mage was. She also has the Skull. And, well, honestly, this looks like pretty much the same list Mage was playing, except she has 2 Twisting Others, which I really like.
Yeah, so for those that didn't watch the first game of the day where Mage beat Jackie Chan, he was piloting this list and kind of stumbled across an interaction that no one really realized when they were building these lists. But effectively, that Skull of Manai that pulls out demons, when you complete the seals off Rin, the 10 mana that destroys your opponent's deck is also a demon, so it just pulls it out before the battle cry can activate. And Mage actually lost because he wasn't aware that it was a demon when you finished the quest. So it's kind of interesting to see how like the plays develops the days going on, because then Mage stopped using the weapon in some of these control matchups where he knew he wanted to complete the seals for the Rin. But the problem was, if he hadn't done that and just played out the weapon, he probably would have won on tempo anyway. So they feel like a really like counterintuitive cards to include in the deck.
Yeah, it's a really fine line to walk, and it's interesting to see how that's going to play out. But at this point, Eloise knows her opponent is Zoo, so
how
Skull
creepy
Minari,
do you want to get? Didn't go for double creeper. Oh,
I would have done it.
All in.
You just got to man up, play some 0-mana 5/5 sometime. If you get those down before Twisting Nether, I mean, what is Warlock going to do about that? You know, he needs like
nothing. Just suck it up.
Yeah.
So this is a really awkward start for Jowen, though.
Very, yeah. You could have considered coining Direwolf Alpha, but that would have been really bad against the Homunculus on turn 2 from Eloise. So good on him to hold off. He can't be happy about this opening for Jowen. This is, I mean, to be fair, this is one of the risks of playing all these slow cards like Despicable Dreadlord, Bone Mare, Opening Hand Creeper, Gul'dan. Like, this is not exactly a low curve Zoo deck, but despite that, this is a well below average draw. All right, Voidwalker can come down between the Direwolves, and
it's a beefy Voidwalker, 3 attack.
Yeah,
Flex.
He is pretty jacked in the artwork. Look at that.
Yeah, he is.
Voidwalker lifts.
Voidwalker lives.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, he's got a
that
hunchback
positioning, but maybe it's. I just don't like that positioning. I don't think that's right. But it's not really going to come up on this board.
Yeah, because of the Tar Creeper, right? I mean, if you need to put 5 attack into it anyway, so whether it's 3, like the Direwolf's got to go in, and it ends up being 5 regardless.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, on the off chance, I always wants to attack with Tar Creeper. This is a little worse. The Defile clears this and leaves Tar Creeper up if Eloise wants to go that route.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's, you know, looking at her hand, I think her turns are going to be pretty occupied playing other stuff for a while, so I wouldn't mind seeing a Defile here. But at the same time, these Tar Creepers are so effective at stopping this board, and nothing's really going to punch through that. So I think actually Tar Creeper's probably
Tar Creeper, yeah, it looks really good. Especially because the Tar Creeper loses so much value once those like 4 or 5 attack minions that Jowen has kind of come out, where the Defile still holds a lot of value because you can kind of create these interesting boards from Eloise's position.
Right. Yeah, we're going to see a Dreadlord come down. Down back in the board a little bit. And still going to have the Direwolves next to each other. I mean, at this point, I think that is the right positioning. Yeah.
So this is the downside of the Skull, because it's the mana, like it's the curve play this turn, but it's really slow against a faster deck. And now, fortunately, Jowen has had a really slow start, so it can kind of come down if she chooses, but, I mean,
yeah, she
not
wants the battle cry, though, from that Enforcer. It's tough. I mean, Eloise has a play here with, like, Mortal Coil Defile Clear. There's something to be said for just jamming Skull. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's such an interesting card that has such a powerful effect, but at the same time, it's like so hard to know when you should play it, or in what matchups you should keep it.
Yeah, the Mortal Coil Defile I really like, though, because you can also follow it up with a Mistress, and then next turn you have Siphon for a big minion or Rand.
Yeah, yeah, it does seem pretty good. It's tough if you're Eloise. On the other hand, Skull gains value as time goes on. I mean, if any time she draws a Void Lord, it basically wins the game. So.
The Voidlord Skull interaction is by far the most impressive of anything that we've seen so far. Just being able to cheat out a 3/9 that gives you 3 1/3s, all taunts, like
always is going to jam it.
So a little bit of a greedy play in a way, because it leaves a lot on board for Jowen to play with.
Absolutely. But between Mortal Coil, Mistress, and all these opponents' minions on the side of the table, I think she's very likely to still have a good Defile, so always feels comfortable doing it this turn.
So the interesting thing I've noticed as we've watched these couple of games play out for Jowen is that having the higher value minions in the deck alongside the Soulfires makes the Soulfires seem so much worse, because you never want to discard anything in your hand. The deck is just so good overall that Soulfire discarding stuff. It's very different to old Zoo, where most of the deck was kind of just like put
Bad
in
cards.
there. Yeah, it was like bad cards, but there was enough of them fast enough that with the hero power that it like made Soulfire good. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And so every time he's used the Soulfire, apart from when his hand's been empty, it looks really awkward. Like, I don't want to discard any of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. So Skull's going to start doing some work. And Eloise at this point is so far behind. Man, that Skull is just get it. Whether it's played or not played, I feel like it's losing people games every time.
So Siphon Soul just doesn't seem like it does enough. You're way too low. The Defile Mortal Coil clear that you pointed out last turn doesn't get rid of the Dreadlord.
Right. And then, next turn, what do you do then? It's a tough position to be in if you're Eloise. You can also life tap first, I guess, if you're doing the Defile Mortal Coil play, right?
Hope you find something that can...
Yeah. You can even, like, throw down the Mistress before if you're worried about getting burned out, but you won't. It's better to play it after. You want the stats. I mean, I think Eloise is committed now to the Coil Defile Mistress play. I think it's better to play Mistress after Defiling because that Dreadlord is going to be at 2 health, so you want to be able to threaten it. I mean, there's also no way she dies here, so you just rather have the stats. You're still going to gain your 4 life before you lose. Second Dreadlord would be best draw for Jowen. And,
Let's go!
Why'd I say it? The 150. Well...
Everyone was thinking it, but you had to say it. And this is what happens.
Well, there we go. At least we get a free roll of Homunculus. There you go.
I mean, this still isn't the worst position for Eloise. Because the Siphon Soul, you're taunting away, like, you're still pretty well protected, but you're right, it's not great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Compared to what it could have been.
Eloise is going to throw out the Siphon, go up to 16. Life tapping is very valuable when you have a Skull going, it seems like. It's you just always want to draw more cards.
Yeah, because, I mean, you end up playing stuff so frequently that just as much in your hand is...
Yeah. Bone Mare coming down for Jowen puts him in a much better spot than before, but all Eloise really has to do is live one more turn just because of how good this O card is.
Ooh, Void Lord.
That is probably a good pull. I think you just Siphon and don't tap.
That sounds really good. I mean, the Rin next turn is another follow-up taunt. Otherwise, you have the Master Oak, which is even better because you'll pull the other Void Lord from your deck, right?
Yeah, at this point, Eloise is just worried about Jowen, pulling Gul'dan on 10 and just rezzing so many, just high-value threats.
Yeah, so for Jowen to win from here, it is very much back on the Gul'dan plan. Right. And finding some Doom Guards before then that don't discard the Gul'dan, obviously, would be ideal to make sure he's got enough burst damage to get through. But it seems so far away again at this point. That's good.
That's the best card Jowen could have drawn. That's a better draw than Gul'dan. That's actually, that's so important. But still, Eloise is going to have 2 Void Lords. That's a lot of Voids lording.
It goes straight through it, though.
How do you get through all that? As long as she doesn't draw the other Void Lord, she's good here. Yeah, so, I mean, just the amount of stats you're getting. Although both Tar Creepers have been drawn, so I don't know if she can pull... Oh, she pulls Blood Mage. Okay, that's still something.
Yeah, I mean, we would just think that you want more cards in your hand at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely better than not pulling it.
So...
If you're down here, yeah, you're just looking for Blood Mage. Or, sorry, for Blood Reaver next turn. Oh. Seems like it's worth killing a Void Lord. Might as well.
It's just so many stats.
Yeah. I mean, how do you kill somebody as an aggro deck that's played that card?
Yeah, because, I mean, just in health alone, it's, 18 health per Void Lord?
Yeah.
So on that turn, 36 life of Void Lord came out on the board.
Right.
Plus the other things.
Well, killing 2 of them in the same turn is going to mean Eloise doesn't have the board slots to get every Voidwalker, but I feel like 4 of them might be enough. Actually, having a full board means Eloise can't pull Despicable Dreadlord out off Skull. It's actually a big deal here.
Forced to use her own mana. But that's really, really strong.
Yeah, that's...
A lot of this board can get cleared down now.
Probably going to be good enough. I mean, Eloise is very happy to see that, I think. And the Crystal Weaver will still be up, but it's not really a big deal, right? Like, you run 2 of your Voidwalkers in. You don't even have to run them in.
Yeah, you leave
Oh, yeah, you just run the 2-4 in.
Yeah, 5 taunts up this way is pretty good.
This is actually insane, even if Jowen pulls the Blood Reaver. Always in a very good spot and essentially stabilized.
The one thing, though, is Eloise is only on 10 life, so, I mean, Gul'dan exactly on that turn might have been enough to get there, especially with the very little life Eloise is playing with. I don't know, probably not.
We've seen some graphics bugs with, like, Rexar getting the immunity frame around him. Maybe there's a bug where Jowen will get a Pyroblast in his deck and top deck that. I mean, outside of that kind of scenario, it's going to be a very tough game for him to win.
I mean, if he can even just find the bug where he actually draws Gul'dan in his deck, that might be useful.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So this seems fairly simple for Eloise. You're just trying to get rid of the minions and play Rin.
Yeah, I mean, she's debating, like, is it even worth, like, tapping right now?
So I don't think you do. There's no more tools that she would need, right?
I mean, she's just thinking, you know, what if my opponent does rip Gul'dan? How far ahead do I need to be? It looks like she is just going to ignore the Crystal Weaver, so I agree with this line of play. I think this is fine.
Just chalk up the 2 damage on it.
Yeah.
That's not going to be enough.
No, it is not Gul'dan. Maybe he forgot to put it in the deck. It's on the list here. Yeah, 2 of the Voidwalkers are going to go down, and yeah, at this point, Eloise is going through the motions. There we go. Eloise is going to take it.
So a round of applause comes out from those looking on, but Eloise takes it 3-1, and I guess kind of an expected result. As we said at the top of this, Eloise was the one that's been grinding hard.